Shouldn't the government treat all children fairly? Hi, I'm Stuart Shepard, and this is First Liberty Live. Thank you for supporting our work here at First Liberty. If you look up at the top of firstlibertylive.com, there's a big red donation button there. If you like the work that we're doing and want to be part of it, that's one way that you can join in with us. Let me just say thank you in advance from all of us here. David Hacker is our Vice President of Litigation at First Liberty Institute and also Senior Counsel. Hey, David.
Hey, how you doing, Stuart?
Thanks for coming out. We just had an important step in a case out of Maine. We just filed at an appeals court, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, catch us up on what the case is about. What's going on in Maine that we need to be paying attention to?
Yeah, so Maine has a school choice program. It's one of the most rural states in the country, and so there aren't public schools where all the people live. And so what Maine does is they'll pay for your child to go to a high school of your choice if you don't live close enough to the local high school. And so a few years ago, we were part of a case called Carson versus Macon that went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, which we won as a tremendous victory. And the court said, hey, you know, if you're a parent that wants to utilize some of this tuition dollars, you can use that at religious schools. That does not violate the Constitution, because for about 40 years, Maine told parents, you can use our dollars, just not at religious schools.
So you can go to any school you want to, unless it has religious connection. And by that, even one class would knock them out, right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So any class that deals with religion. People who followed us for all have wondered probably about this, because as you just mentioned, we won this at the Supreme Court. Why is it still going on?
Yeah. So I guess Maine kind of figured out that the court might rule against them ultimately, which it did.
Yeah.
And so the Maine legislature started a process of amending their Human Rights Act while the case was still at the U.S. Supreme Court. And what they did is they basically inserted what we call a poison pill into their laws in Maine that says if you're a Christian school or religious school, you have to agree to abide by all of our various non-discrimination clauses in order to receive the tuition money. So parents can still utilize this money wherever they want, but the schools can't actually accept it unless they agree to Maine's very onerous Human Rights Act.
So they just basically thumbed their nose at the Supreme Court and said, we're just going to modify the law a little bit and keep doing what we're doing.
That's right.
Now, can you do that? I mean, as a regular person, I hear that, and I'm thinking they can't do that. The Supreme Court already said no.
Right. Yeah, the Supreme Court said, first and foremost, that these tuition dollars can be used at religious schools. So that was kind of the important ruling in the Carson case.
Okay.
And so Maine, you know, cleverly, in what I would say a cleverly bad way, decided, well, we're going to amend our laws to say if you're a Christian school, religious school, you have to agree not to discriminate based on all these extra characteristics.
Right.
And that, you know, that includes, you know, being willing to accept teachers and students who don't agree with your doctrinal beliefs at the school, which is completely antithetical to the First Amendment and the Constitution. So that's why we're back in this battle. And we represent a school up there called Bangor Christian Schools.
So this is a new case. Carson v. Macon is done. This is now starting from square one and going. And it's already made it through the district court. Things did not go well there. Yeah,
they didn't go well. I mean, it's hostile territory, but we had we filed the case. We asked the court to give us a preliminary injunction to stop this new law.
Yeah.
The court declined to do that. And so we asked the court, well, why don't you make that a permanent ruling so that we can appeal this? It's really a legal question that needs to be resolved by the higher courts. And so we've now appealed that ruling to the First Circuit Court of Appeals.
Okay. Tell me how that works. What happens next in the process here?
Yeah, so we have the opportunity to file 2 briefs at that court, and Maine will get an opportunity to file a brief as well.
Okay.
So that's exciting. The case is kind of moving forward in the Court of Appeals. There will probably be an opportunity for us to appear for an oral argument in a few months here and present our case, and then we'll just wait for the court to make a decision. We hope they make the right one based on the law. We think we're right. We think that this new statute that Maine passed is unconstitutional under the First Amendment, and so we're hopeful that they'll agree with us.
Now, I'm not an attorney, so I'm trying to understand what I'm hearing. Is this a question of the injunction, or this is actually on the merits of the case and what the law is?
A little bit of both. So the injunction is the relief that we asked for, if you will. So like if you go into court, you get in a car accident, you sue the other person, you're going into court to get money, right?
Yeah.
Get your car repaired.
Okay.
What we go into court for often often is what's called equitable relief or an injunction. We want to stop the government from doing something. And in this case, we want to stop Maine from being able to enforce this human rights statute against our client, Bangor Christian Schools.
Got it.
So that's the relief we ask the court to give us. But on the merits, what we're saying is this law, it violates the First Amendment.
Very good. Let's talk about that for a bit. Why is it okay for a Christian family or any religion family to send their child to a religious school and avail themselves of a state tuition program? A lot of people would immediately say, oh, no, you can't mix those two. Why is it okay constitutionally?
Right. Well, for many years, the Supreme Court has said that when the state dollars flow into like a parent's hands, that's essentially more or less like a circuit breaker. So the parent can choose to send their child to any private school. Okay. It doesn't have to be a religious one. It could be a secular private school. It could be a Catholic private school. It could be a Jewish private school. It doesn't really matter. The parent is making that independent choice. And so for many years, the court has said that kind of circuit breaker effect kind of washes the money of any constitutional concern, and it can go to a religious school without it violating the First Amendment in any sort of way. And that's a long-standing doctrine that's been around.
Whenever we post anything about this case, somebody starts lecturing us on separation of church and state.
Right.
How do we respond to them? What do we say?
Yeah, well, I've heard that as well throughout my career, and there really isn't a separation of church and state. What we're talking about when we think about the First Amendment and the Establishment Clause, we want to keep the government out of the church, right? That's a proper understanding of the separation of church and state.
Yeah.
Keeping the government out of the church. But the government, since the inception of our country, has acknowledged religion. Think about our national motto, "In God We Trust." Think about in the U.S. Supreme Court, there's a picture of Moses and the Ten Commandments. I mean, so we've acknowledged religion ever since our founding, and the government can give money out as long as it does so on a viewpoint neutral basis and allows religious groups to participate in those funding schemes. But what it can't do is it can't single out religion for disfavored treatment when it's handing out money generally. And so that's kind of what this case is about, is ensuring that religious people are treated the same as all other people.
Very good. Anything else you want to share before I let you go?
No, just stay tuned for what happens next in this case. It's going to be exciting. We're probably headed towards the Supreme Court at some point, but we'll keep you updated.
Very good. David Hacker, thank you so much. Excellent update.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Again, if you'd like to support our work here at First Liberty, defending our heritage of religious freedom in this country, just look for that big red donation button up at the top of the page. First Liberty,